All right, we have the finals match for the 100 faction free-for-all that I've been doing for the last few months. This is Werewolf Teddy Bears versus Kung Fu Fighters Knights of the Round Table. Here's our starting spread. We've got Grandma's House, Laboratorium, and Egg Chamber. Were-Teddies don't have a great starting hand. Sir Squeezes they don't want to play right now, and Snuggly Bear they also don't really want to play right now, so they'll pass. Kung Fu Knights have a great starting hand. It's always nice to have Lady of the Lake and at least a couple of movement options in hand to begin with. So Guinevere on the Laboratorium to get a counter, and then Noble Steed to move her over to Egg Chamber to avoid any possible werewolf destruction. Alright, still not great options for the Were-Teddies. They do have Tea Party, and there is another minion in play, so they are going to go ahead and put Snuggly Bear on Egg Chamber as well to just draw. Accidentally drew an extra one there, but that's 1+2 for turn. They have a potent Sir Squeezes Burst ready to go. So we'll see what they do next turn. Alright, Lancelot on Grandma's House to look at the top card of the deck. That's Merlin, so we'll keep him right where he is. Expert timing in hand, always great to have. The Knights have a lot of great talents to exploit as a base scores. Guinevere back over to Laboratorium. Alright, so it's time for the Sir Squeezes Burst. Lovey Bear and Howler will both be 4s when they're played, because Guinevere is 4 power. So Sir Squeezes comes in with a power counter, so he's a 6. That's a 4, that's 10 power already. 14 power, and then 2 Snuggly Bears to cap it off. Rather than Useful Moon, we'll go straight for the Frenzy, and then Great Wolf Spirit can provide the last couple of power. Maybe I didn't need a couple of those Snuggly Bears there, but oh well. Alright, so first base is cleared, and Were-Teddies are currently in the lead. The Kung Fu options tend to be a little bit slow. Knights can be very quick if you play mainly the Knights cards. It looks like Merlin's about to enter play. Finds a good deed first thing, which is great. They love extra actions, more ways to get modifiers out. Speaking of modifiers, Lady of the Lake is going to grab the Noble Steed that just disappeared, so Lancelot can move over, trigger Good Deed, and give himself a power counter. Draw Let's Get It On with Good Deed, and Galahad and Gawain for the end of the turn. Alright, another Frenzy and Group Hug, which is not ideal when you've got one single-powered minion in play. And Fun Bear, oh boy. Alright, Galahad is going to find the Grail, eventually. And top deck that. Lancelot's going to move back over to trigger Good Deed again, draw the Grail. Keep that card on top of the deck with Grandma's House ability. Play the Grail as their regular action for the turn. And then draw Cricket and a little bit frightening at the end of turn. Fun Bear, for when you have no other options. They opted to keep Cuddle on top of the deck, which in retrospect may not have been the greatest idea, but they needed to try to slow the Knights down, and Cuddle is a great way to do that. Lancelot back over to Castle Blood to trigger Good Deed. Draw a card. It's Lady Whirlwind, one of the scariest minions in this combo, because she can just decimate anything, especially most of the werewolf and teddy bear minions. I bring Sifu into play and opt to give him 3 counters instead of the 2 that it takes to summon him. This kicks Great Wolf Spirit out of play. And Sifu is very useful for this combination. Useful for Kung Fu fighters in general, but Knights can generate a surprising amount of power counters themselves, especially when you have Merlin revealing and playing the Green Knight from the top of the deck. One of their best power counter generators next to Lancelot and Questing Beast. All right, they end with a very potent hand, lots of big potential next turn. They opt to cuddle Merlin. They could have cuddled Lady Whirlwind, but as many cards as Knights have in their hands right now, Kung Fu destruction is just too likely, and preventing Merlin from playing any more extra cards seemed like the most important thing at the time. So yes, first thing they're going to do is count up Lancelot's power and confirm that he will have enough to complete the Green Knight quest. Briefly consider ancient Chinese art, but then remember that Lancelot and the Green Knight will both give him a power counter before the Green Knight's VP resolves. So he will have exactly 7 power, which does trigger the Green Knight and provides 1 victory point. In addition, because there are at least 3 minions at power 4 there, the Grail resolves as well, provides 2 VP and goes out of play. This brings Kung Fu Knights up to 6 victory points. And they have 20 power on the base. They have not played 19 power on the base. They have not played a minion yet. They're considering their options. What's the most efficient way? At first they look at Drunken Master, but then they realize they can do this with Cricket instead, which is always a nice trade. Cricket was not one of my favorite 2-power minions for the longest time, but Sifu, letting him come in potentially as a 4-power minion with the option to become even stronger is a big deal now. So with Cricket's own ability and with Sifu transferring an additional counter from Lancelot over, or from Cricket to Lancelot, as it were, they have enough power to break the base for a solo score. And they are going to use Expert Timing before the base scores to trigger Noble Steed and move Lancelot over to Egg Chamber, which gives him another power counter. So he is at 9 power currently. And Funbear also gets a power counter. And I believe this brings the base just 1 point shy of breaking. They did play Fast as Lightning on Lady Whirlwind, where Teddy's considered Love Overload, but Lady Whirlwind would have taken the brunt of that and just gone back to hand anyway, so not worth it. Alright, Grandma's House scored, and a Retirement Community, the other Granny's base, into play. I forgot to increase Kung Fu Knight's score there, but they are now sitting comfortably at 11 victory points to 5 for Were-Teddies. And that is a lead that the Were-Teddies would have an extraordinarily difficult time coming back from. They finally draw into 2 cute So they have some means of defense against Lady Whirlwind now. And rather than take second at Egg Chamber, they opt to go ahead and set up on Retirement Community. And Lancelot moves over to Retirement Community and resolves the Fisher King with all those cards they have in hand. Gets another power counter. So that brings them up to, oh, there we go, catching up. 12 victory points to 5. Considering the best way to go about this, they are breaking the base this turn, and they're going to do it with a Drunken Master, using his ability to put a counter on himself, and then using Sifu's ability to transfer 1 from Lancelot and add an additional 1. So Egg Chamber does not score, and I realize this was a potentially big misplay by Teddy's. They could have scored Egg Chamber and, well, no, they couldn't have, because Egg Chamber protects Lancelot from Love Overload. Yes, I remember why I did this now. Yes. It might have been best to get Lancelot out of play, but really, Where Teddies were up a creek without a paddle by this point, and this concludes Game 1 of the finals. An utter beatdown from Kung Fu Knights against Where Teddies, 16-7. I was shocked. Where Teddies have been performing much better up to this point, although Kung Fu Knights have not been hitting their ceiling in their other games as nearly as often as I expected them to. They absolutely hit their ceiling in this match. The way turn order works for this tournament is the lower seed team always gets to go first. Oops, I realized I left a cuddle in there by accident. So that goes back to Where Teddies. So yes, the higher seed team goes first, which in this case would be Where Teddies, seated at, I believe, 40, and where Kung Fu Knights are 2. So for game 1, the higher seed goes first, and for the second game, the lower seeded team goes first. And then if there is a game 3, the team that goes first is whichever team lost the previous game. And I found that's just a very useful way for sussing out which team truly is the strongest, because if a team can still win going second, very often you can credit that to just, more than just getting to go first, which sometimes makes a difference in these things. Anyway, another very fast start, Merlin on Boogie Wonderland, followed by Drunken Master, facing off against Lovey Bear. There's already the Green Knight out in play. 2 crickets, not the greatest draw, but what can you do? This is a point at which I make a bit of a misplay. I, for some reason, was discounting Drunken Master on Boogie Wonderland and thought that I could bring Great Wolf Spirit into play, and then use Chew Toy with assistance from Great Wolf Spirit for Lovey Bear to decimate Merlin. Fortunately, that didn't make a big difference in the end, and in fact is about to make Great Wolf Spirit is about to get kicked back out of play by Sifu. But yes, slight error on my part. Merlin should not have been destroyed. Considering my options, everybody knew their part into cricket. Maybe not the most optimal use of that particular card, but again, with Sifu out, cricket can get very strong very fast. And at this point, Knights just want to, both teams want to get victory points as fast as they can. And Knights want to push the advantage while they have it. So Howler and Fun Bear and marking territory, not the greatest array of options. Where Teddy's considering what they can do. They really want to break Boogie Wonderland, but without Great Wolf Spirit in play, they just don't have the means to accomplish that. Yes, the best they can do is tie on Boogie Wonderland. 11 to 11 power. But then Kung Fu Knights remember that they have expert timing in play, and in a kind of a trollish move, use expert timing to place a single power counter on Drunken Master to give them a 1-point advantage, giving them first place over Where Teddy's. Next we have Hideout, which is a base that generally Kung Fu Knights don't like, because it means minions can be protected from their Kung Fu moves and destruction. So Knights generally want this base gone as quickly as they can. It did come in handy when Kung Fu Knights faced Masters of Evil Geeks. Geeks couldn't touch them at all. And in the game that Hideout appeared in, Geeks drew a total of 3 minions for the entire game, so they really had no means to break it. And it just became an absolute slugfest for Kung Fu Knights of the Round Table. We have a Drunken Master on Hideout, as well as Ancient Chinese Art, just to generate more power counters. Teen Wolf, it's going to join Snuggly Bear, and Marking Territory. They are threatening the base imminently. And it will break next turn unless Kung Fu Knights can do something about that. So they respond with a Cricket, who will get +2 power with its ability, and then an additional +2 power using Sifu's talent. And then Ancient Chinese Art and Drunken Master put Drunken Master back up to 5 power on Hideout. So Marking Territory does not trigger. Where Teddy's check and see if they have the power to just burst straight to the breakpoint on Lake Minnetonka with Sir Squeezes, but with Funbear as the only minion they could play, Frenzy wouldn't even be useful here because it would only affect Teen Wolf and Sir Squeezes. And they don't really want to use their Sir Squeezes burst on Hideout at this point either. So weighing their options, Cricket is at 6 power, so Teen Wolf can't even destroy him with Let the Dog out. They're just very strapped for options here. They can't trigger Marking Territory. They don't really have any minions they can play because they want to save Funbear for Sir Squeezes. Not that Funbear is a great option to play anyway. They're considering Too Cute, and figure, that's at least something. If they can't break the base, and they're going to play Sir Squeezes just to do a little bit of math and get some visualization there. Almost make another misplay. Briefly bring out Great Wolf Spirit before remembering that there is no way in the world that Teddy Wolves have more power on Lake Minnetonka. So Great Wolf Spirit is going back out of play, and Funbear and Sir Squeezes go back into the hand. I consider again, doing some math. Sir Squeezes and Funbear both getting +1 from the base ability brings it up to 22. Teen Wolf and Sir Squeezes getting +1 from Frenzy brings it up to 24. And ordinarily, that's way more than enough for most bases in the game, but not Lake Minnetonka. So I think they stick with their original plan of 2 cute on Lake Minnetonka and draw 2. Guinevere on Hideout. Sends Drunken Master over to Lake Minnetonka. He is at 6 power +1 for the base ability, +1 for Green Knight, and +1 for Questing Beast. So that's a very, very stout Drunken Master over on Lake Minnetonka right now. They're very close to breaking the base with 22 power. They do a Sifu transfer to add an additional +1. And decide to end with a very, very threatening come at me. They're daring Teddy Werewolves to try and overcome them, and their immense amounts of power they have on that base. I think it's 17-4 right now, if I'm doing my math correctly. Sir Squeezes cannot make use of the Logaroo that was just drawn because it is power 4. And do a bit more mathing out. Sir Squeezes plays, realizes that they cannot successfully pull off any sort of win on Lake Minnetonka. Not even capable of destroying a minion with Let the Dog Out, because all of the Cricket and the Drunken Master there are too strong, so they pivot to Hideout instead, and Tea Party, just to get some kind of draw going, and force Kung Fu Knights to break Lake Minnetonka on their own turn, which is not too huge a deal. Percival and Fast as Lightning make very quick work of that. Yes, Where Teddies have no answer to this. So that is 10 points to 5. Sifu's out of play. But Percival goes back into the hand. And of course, Guinevere is still on Hideout with Questing Beast and Ancient Chinese Art. Standing Stone's into play. A very dangerous base for both teams. They have cards that can take advantage of that. Well, mainly just Teen Wolf for Where Teddies. Knights and Kung Fu Fighters can take a lot bigger advantage of it. So Standing Stones has to go. Again, considering the Hideout burst with Sir Squeezes and Funbear deciding against it. Draw with Tea Party, and they draw Pack Alpha. Finally, their other boss minion. Pack Alpha will go to Standing Stones here very shortly. Because, yes, for the first time this game, Great Wolf Spirit can come out legitimately, because werewolves have the most power on 2 different bases, even if the most power is also tied with the most power with Kung Fu Knights and Guinevere. So Great Wolf Spirit is out. They can draw an additional card with Tea Party. They end their turn with 12 cards in hand. Fury, Frenzy is discarded, and I think they will come to regret that later. And also Bear Picnic, because they've seen 3 crickets already, and it's not really worth playing Bear Picnic just to block the 4th one. Alright, King Arthur making his grand appearance. Considering hideout. Considering standing stones. I think they end up deciding against this. Yes, so Arthur will not be played at all. Instead, Percival will be played on standing stones, using his talent to move to hideout and trigger Questing Beast. He gets an additional counter from Ancient Chinese Art. Bumps Questing Beast back over to standing stones. The 2 power counters allow Sifu to be played out in the woods. Currently 12 power threatened on hideout, but Guinevere uses her talent to move Percival back over to standing stones, and in a rare opportunity for a minion with a movement talent, Percival gets to use his talent on standing stones a second time to move back to hideout. Yes, considering the logistics of this move here. It's absolutely possible to break hideout this turn. Percival is at 7 power. Yes, moving Questing Beast to hideout instead of out in the woods. Taking back the Sifu summon, actually. So Percival has those 2 power counters still, because those are necessary for breaking the base. And Fast as Lightning gets the last 2 power in on hideout to score it. Guinevere goes to the discard, and Percival goes back to hand with the second Fast as Lightning. Tournament site out, not a base that Wereteddy's wanted to see. They need bases with high VP for first place. Right now their best bet is standing stones, so they finally have an additional minion that they can play with Sir Squeezes, so they are going to just dump that play onto standing stones. Great Wolf Spirit and Frenzy are going to help them hit the break point. And they have soloed standing stones and also gotten rid of Questing Beast. The Greasy Spoon out next, which is another great base for knights. When they complete their quest on Greasy Spoon, those quests go back into the deck instead of the discard pile, unless the quest is the Grail. Knights can come in second on any of these bases except for Tournament Site and still win the game. I think it's a good time to point out that Wereteddy's accidentally got an extra VP from coming second in hideout. The score should be 10-13. And this makes a little bit of difference in what Wereteddy's might have done, but ultimately, Wereteddy's are going to lose no matter what. So, another bit of a misplay on my part, but like I said, it didn't make much of a difference in the end. Because with 11 VP, Wereteddy's can potentially tie the game at the Greasy Spoon if they can win it. And so they're going to invest all their resources there. They have a potential 8 power burst between Lugaroo, Care Package, and Howler. It's not quite enough to hit the break point, and not quite enough to surpass Kung Fu Knights there. So they weigh their options. They got 3 very powerful minion modifiers in hand: Leader of the Pack, Moon Touched, and Cuddle. They're considering how they should set up for a big play on Greasy Spoon. So they originally consider Cuddle on King Arthur to block his ability to move other minions to his base and give them power counters since Merlin's library is there. Then they consider Moon Touched. They end up going with Leader of the Pack, chaining into Moon Touched, and drawing a card with that because Arthur does have the most power there at 5, tied with Percival, so Wereteddy's can make use of both of those minion modifiers' talents. Now here is the first misplay for Kung Fu Knights, because I was still operating this turn under the impression that Arthur had been cuddled and therefore had no ability. I move Percival over to tournament site with good deed to draw a card. Actually, this may not have been a misplay. Yes, I think they used their... So, Galahad used his ability to top deck the Grail. And looking at this recording before, I was under the impression that they would have been able to draw and play the Grail. You can see they've moved Merlin's Library off of the Greasy Spoon in preparation for playing the Grail there. But I remembered that I had already used my action play for the turn with good deed. So they will not be able to play the Grail this turn and resolve it. So they take back moving Merlin's Library, they take back moving Percival, and or they move him back with Arthur's Talent. Yes, there we go. So 15 power on the Greasy Spoon, only 5 more to break it. Can werewolf teddy bears surpass this? They have Lugaru, who will become a 6 when the base scores, so they're putting all their chips on the table. Care package, draw a card, and play an extra minion. They're square deal. That would have been nice to have, several turns ago. So, Lugaru at 6, Snuggly Bear at 1, Howler at 4. That's 11 power. Let the dog out to get rid of Galahad, because right now Lugaru is still 4. But it can get rid of 1 minion at least. So this brings the power to a tie at 11 to 11. Because Arthur and Percival together, that's 5 and a 6. And then Lugaru is 6. Snuggly Bear is 1. And Howler is 4. 11 to 11. Technically bringing the game, the base to a tie. And... ending the game, because teddy bears would rather bring the score close than to lose by another huge VP margin. So yes, that is the end of game 2. The final score should be 17 to 14. But regardless, Knights of the Round Table win no matter what. If where Teddy's had opted to break a different base, then Knights of the Round Table could have easily resolved the Grail the following turn and won in that way. So overall, again, a bit of a blowout for the Kung Fu Knights of the Round Table. Congratulations to them for winning the 100 Faction Free-for-All 2023-2024.